As anyone who has read the Bible, with the spirit of truth in their heart, in their mind, in their soul, anyone who has read it from front to back, you know that it causes turmoil within you. Frustrations, things of that nature. Because as you read through it, you're constantly faced with with things that just question the validity of it, the validity of the God in it, or at least the worth of the God when it comes to worshiping that God, if the God is worthy. Once again, this is when it is read, like I said, with truth already in mind. So this isn't for a Christian who is reading it, because a Christian who is reading the Bible after already accepting Christianity, after already accepting Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, they're going to read it at a different mindset. For the few, and I'll say few, Christians who have read the Bible, because it has been in my experience, my ongoing experience in dealing with Christians regularly here on YouTube, that they just haven't read the entire Bible. They'll have their favorite passages and quotes, which are usually the same as all of them, especially John 3:16 and the like. And they'll have the ones that maybe their minister, the pastor, preacher went over in church, or went over in Sunday school, Bible study, whatnot. But once again, very few have read the entire Bible. So like I said, but for those who have, if for the most part, once again, if they haven't read the Bible, then their acceptance, their belief in the Bible and Jesus and the God of the Bible comes from a position of belief without knowing the truth and effect of the Bible itself. So their whole position, their whole faith, their whole belief is based truly on belief and faith, with no true sound base, cornerstone of truth. They enter into that relationship, if you will, in just belief. So once again, if a Christian was to read it after the fact of being a Christian, they will read it from a standpoint of, well, this is the truth, and I'm going to believe what it is. And so as they come across things that would make another person take pause and step back and say, wait a minute, they just take it in and will move forward. Like, well, that's the way it is. That's the way God was. That's the way God wanted it. Because I believe it no matter what. I'm going to believe in it. I'm going to pass through. I'm going to close my mind, if you will, to the problems that you encounter. The things that just don't jive. It's just to read through the Bible from the back. It takes a suspension of, for lack of a better term, common sense. I really don't like the term common sense because it's subjective and it differs people. And of course, it's all about us having something in common. It takes a judgment, it takes a suspense of just a suspension of truth, a suspension of morals, a suspension of just I keep falling back on common sense. You have to suspend that. You have to suspend that which you generally use to navigate throughout this world, throughout this normal world, this material world, throughout the everyday life of family life, of personal life, with acquaintances, throughout the everyday life of business. You have to suspend those things which you generally use to get through everyday life. Because if you don't suspend it, then you're constantly coming up against barriers. You have to fight through these blocks and barriers of what's going on. One of the things that always just amazed me about the Bible, about the God of the Bible, about the supposed God of this world, is the fact that everything was just messed up from the get-go. I mean, just from the very start, in essence, everything was just doomed to fail. And basically, you can say it was doomed to fail because it did fail. I mean, just like I said, just from the start. But you know, as you read through it, as you go through the trials and tribulations of the beginning people, you know, as you go through Deuteronomy and Numbers, as you go through and you're dealing with the lives of, you know, the Israelites and whatnot, it's always one failing after the next. It's like this God has always comes up short things. You always run into this guy saying things that are definite in nature, that are supposed to be solid and sound, and yet then you end up running to something that makes it not definite. Like, example, let's say you're talking to somebody, a basketball player, and this player says, I scored, you know what, I just had a game and I scored all the points for my team. You said, what? You scored all the points? You said, yep, I scored all the points for my team. I had every single point for my team. It's probably they didn't score nothing. All right, and then you find out that his team scored 102 points. Right? He scored 100, and so somebody else scored 2. But then you say, well, wait a minute, you didn't score all the points. You only scored, at best, most of the points. And then he'll say, well, you know what I mean, right? They only scored 2. I scored 100. So I scored almost all the points. He said, well, you said that you scored all the points. He's like, well, you know what I mean. And you say, well, no, I don't know what you mean. I know what you said. You said that you scored all the points. I said every single point. You said, yeah, you still scored every single point. But you didn't score every single point. You scored 100 out of 102. Well, you know what I mean. And so it's that type of thing that you always is faced with as you go through the Bible. It's just constantly. And for that which is supposed to be perfect, unflawed, infallible, that is supposed to be coming from the Supreme Being, that is supposed to be of the utmost importance, I wouldn't hope to find that. I don't know, I want to say you wouldn't hope to find that, but maybe you who are watching this video and the Christians, they have no problem. They, once again, they allow that. But for me, I would not hope to find that, because then once that is allowed, once that imperfection is allowed, then how can I ever know anything, any other imperfection, any other thing that is wrong, if you will, that is not accurate? How can I know that it isn't from God, or that it is of God? You know what I'm saying? Somebody else couldn't tell me that, well, that's not from God because it was wrong, or it was imperfect. And then I said, well, I can give you an example of where there are imperfections. So how could I'll always be in a state of always not knowing for fact and truth if something was right, because I know that things could be allowed to be wrong. I can never know if that was from that God, because I can never just say, well, I know that it's from this God because this God would not allow such, but this God did allow such. So it's going to always be put in an uncomfortable position of trying to discern what is right, what is just. And so ultimately it's going to come back to the power of truth, to the true God, which is truth, which does not cause confusion within you, which does not cause turmoil within your heart, your soul, and your mind. It is only those things which are not truth which does such things. One thing I forgot to add and mention is that I am open to that the truth may be that in actuality that I am not reading the Bible already with the spirit of truth within me. That in actuality that which I believe is the spirit of truth is actually only a belief. That even if that it could be that subconsciously I have already embraced and adopted within myself a belief which then does not enable me to read the Bible and to accept it properly, because in essence my mind, my thought has already been corrupted.